Welcome to our series on the 12 powers. Today I will be talking about the power of strength. But first, here's a little quote from Seneca. Fire is the test of gold, adversity of strong men. I had to look this up because I didn't get it at first, but it turns out that fire is the test of gold because if you drop a piece of gold into a fire and it has impurities in it, it will oxidize. The fire can burn it. But if you drop pure gold into the fire, it stays pure gold. Okay, so adversity is the fire that tests us. It proves whether or not we have strength. And when I say strength, I'm not talking about brute strength. We do sometimes try to muscle our way through our problems, but we know that doesn't usually work unless you're digging a hole, okay? So today I'm going to be talking about strength as a spiritual power. Now, in our last video, I talked about faith, okay, the spiritual power of faith. And faith basically means that we're saying yes to source working through us, for us, as us, no matter what, right? No matter what kind of obstacle we're faced with, no matter how we're afraid, no matter what it is that we want to accomplish, we just keep saying yes to source working through us and have faith that the source within us will get us through whatever we happen to be facing. Now, the disciple who represents the power of faith was Peter, because Peter also walked on water, okay? Peter also walked on water. So when we have faith, we are focusing on what we desire to accomplish, not the thing that worries us or upsets us. And it is strength that enables us to focus on our desire instead of what we're worried about. So faith and strength are siblings. Because of strength is why we can walk in faith. So the power of strength is represented by Peter's brother, Andrew. Now Andrew didn't say a lot. He didn't say a lot, and there's not a lot of great stories about him. Okay, other than he seemed to be the first one searching for a great spiritual teacher, and he is the one who found teacher Jesus. So because of Andrew, Jesus gathered together his tribe. So strength, spiritual strength, is the mastery of the spiritual over the material. It gives our soul the power to unfold out into our life through our choices and through our actions, and to do greater things. Remember, we walk in two worlds. We walk in the world of physical reality, where there's a lot of beauty to look at in physical reality. But what is it that we tend to get hooked on, right? When we're looking around, we get stuck on the distractions, we get stuck on the problems, right? So that's what happens to us so much when we are focused just on physical reality. But see, there is also a spiritual reality. And in our spiritual reality, this is where the solutions are. This is where the miracles happen. This is where the ideas, the inspiration, the signs, the synchronicities, and the wonders of God appear in our life. It's in the spiritual reality that we're able to focus on what we desire rather than the perceived obstacles. But shifting our focus takes a massive amount of strength. And so, where there may not be any great stories about Andrew and the power of strength, there is another story that talks about spiritual strength versus brute strength, and that is the story of David and Goliath. Now, this is just going to be a really brief rundown of the story, but there was a king named Saul, and he was fighting against the Philistines, and the Philistines said, "How about you present your greatest warrior, and we'll get our greatest warrior, and we'll just let those two fight this out. And then whoever wins gets all of this," right? The Philistines agreed that if King Saul's warrior won, they would leave. But if their warrior, Goliath, won, they got all of King Saul's land and riches. So King Saul immediately starts looking for a champion. And he promises whoever is his champion and they can stand up to Goliath, they will get all the riches of the kingdom. They will get to marry the princess, and they'll never have to pay taxes. Now, meanwhile, there is the other character in the story, David. David's at home, and David is a simple shepherd. He's a young man, not old enough to go fight, I guess, or he would be with his brothers fighting in this war against the Philistines for King Saul. But David's father gives him some food to take to his brothers. So apparently they're pretty close. So David goes to take this food to his brothers, and as he's walking through the camp, he hears all this conversation. Wow, if somebody can stand up to Goliath, they'll get all the riches of the kingdom. They'll get to marry the princess. They'll never have to pay taxes. And David keeps hearing this over and over again. So finally, when he gets to his brothers, he says, is it true? Like if somebody can stand up against Goliath, they'll get all the riches of the kingdom and they get to marry the princess and they never have to pay taxes. The brothers say, well, yeah, it's true, but have you seen Goliath? And David again wants to focus on the rewards. And the brothers again are like, yes, it's true, but have you seen Goliath? They kept focusing on the big, scary, scary thing out there. So King Saul heard that there was this young man, David, asking about, being the champion. So he sends for David. But when he sees David, he says, you're but a boy. And David says, well, I care for my sheep back home, and I protected them from a lion, and I protected them from a bear. So King Saul decides, okay, you can be my champion. I mean, if you could protect your sheep from a bear and a lion, okay, you've got some strength. But the king insisted on giving David his armor, which was too big and it was too heavy. And he insisted on giving David his sword, which was too heavy. So David said no to all this. He was going to do it his way. And so he went out there with his little shepherd slingshot and 5 pebbles, and he met Goliath. And because he was not weighed down by the armor of the king, he was quick. And he was able to, of course, smite Goliath with one of his stones, got the stone in between Goliath's mighty armor, and David wins the battle, of course. Later on becomes king. Now in this story, Goliath represents the limiting condition that we think is just too big to overcome. And, and you can look around your life and you probably have some Goliaths in your own life. Like they just feel too big. You don't know how you'll ever get around them. But see, David was walking by faith, not by sight. And he knew that he had already protected his sheep from the bear and the lion. So he knew, like, it was possible. It was actually possible to take down Goliath. He knew it. All right, so he was walking by faith, and he wasn't focused on the size of Goliath or how scary he looked. He wasn't focused on any of that. He kept focusing on the prize, the money, the princess, and never having to pay taxes. Okay? And so he had faith. He had the strength to stay focused on the good. Now, strength, it is our ability to keep changing our thinking whenever we veer off to want to focus on the problem in our life, our big Goliath. Spiritual strength is our spiritual backbone that empowers us to do what our humanness alone might not do. This is from Sharon Connors. Okay, I'm going to read that one more time. Spiritual strength is our spiritual backbone that empowers us to do what our humanness alone might not. Sometimes we come from our limited thinking, and so we don't get the big ideas, So our humanness usually can't solve all of our problems. So spiritual strength, it is the reason that we can take action. Spiritual strength empowers us to rise above the hard things that our normal human mind can't manage. Spiritual strength, it empowers us to do the most loving, effective thing. It empowers us to tell the truth when it may cost us. And it helps us to acknowledge our mistakes so we can stop making excuses and blaming our inner demons. Spiritual strength is the power to act even when we don't have a guarantee. It's the power to stand in the spiritual truth that we know, that God is all things, and live that truth even when it's hard. right? Recently, I had to explain to somebody why I believed that God's not out there. They didn't really like my explanation, very well. But see, years ago, like about 10 years ago, somebody wanted to argue with me about that. And I was just like, yeah, okay, whatever. I didn't stand up for myself, right? I didn't have the spiritual strength. When you've got someone in your face pointing out scary life is, pointing out the big Goliath in your life, the Goliath, which is the domineering, scary idea that controls you and manipulates you through fear, right? When you have somebody keep pointing that out, spiritual strength is the only thing at that point that will shift our focus, right? Away from the domineering, scary idea toward what we would like to create, what we would like to see happen in our life, so that we can change our thinking to change our lives. Spiritual strength, working with faith, is the reason that we can change our thinking to change our lives. So here's our call to action today. I'm going to give you an affirmation, and then we can say it together. I have the strength to accomplish all that is mine to do. Let's say it together. I have the strength to accomplish all that is mine to do. Remember, we are walking in two worlds. In this physical world, we're going to be focused on conditions, and we might be tempted to use brute force against our Goliath. We may be tempted to put on somebody else's armor that is too heavy for us, and it limits our movement, right? We might be tempted to do that. And see, when we're focused on just our physical reality, we won't have the clarity to do what is ours to do. We'll just think that we have to fix something. We have to manage it before we can be happy. Eric Butterworth said this: we are not in the world to set it right, but to see it rightly. We're not in the world to set it right. We're not here on this planet right now to fix everything and make everything go our way so that we can always be happy. We're here to see the world rightly. We are here to see the activity of God as an everywhere present force. We are here to acknowledge that because God is an everywhere present force, that means solutions and inspiration and ideas can come from surprising places. If God were not everywhere present and we thought we had to fix everything, man, this would be a sad world where God was finite, right? God was finite, but God is everywhere present. So walking with one foot in the physical world, we do walk with one foot in the physical world so we can see where we're going. We don't want to trip, okay? But we also walk with one foot in the spiritual world because this is where our clarity comes from, so that we can truly do what is ours to do. So we're not trying to fix a world that we're calling broken. Instead, we're seeing the everywhere presence of God within all things. We seek only the wonders that are God. So I'm going to invite you to think about this. Over this next week, we may actually feel a loss of faith, and we may have our inner doubts because we got focused on the Goliath in the room, right? We got focused on the Goliath in our lives. So when we're feeling that loss of faith, and that can sometimes feel like a loss of hope, we can ask ourselves this question: am I focused on Goliath? Am I focused on the problem? Am I thinking that I have to fix this? Right? Am I stressing out about fixing something? But then we remember faith and strength are siblings, right? Faith is saying yes to source working through us, and strength gives us the ability to focus on what source will accomplish through us, right? What does source want to accomplish through you right now? That is what is yours to do right here and now. Right? This is your moment, and there is a creative something working through you, for you, as you, and its intention is for you to call forth the treasures of the unseen world into the physical world. Its intention is to work through you, for you, as you. You were designed for this, right? That's why it feels really good when you let Spirit expand itself through you. Okay, so it is its intention. This creative something at work in all things is seeking to work through you, for you, as you right now, because this is how we create heaven on earth. So until next time, again, remember, you are designed to be doing all of this. You are a one-time, one-of-a-kind cosmic event. In everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is. We'll see you next time.